Before we begin our next segment, a warning to our viewers and listeners. It includes descriptions of sexual.
Welcome, welcome, welcome to the Monday stream. I hope everyone's having an awesome Monday morning. How's it going, Astro? Howdy, everybody. Hopefully, this looks okay for you folks. There's a lot of work going on behind the scenes, quite literally. So hopefully this is okay. Sunrays, how's it going? Miss Serp, howdy howdy. Good to see that your arm is working better, more or less. More or less, Hestro. I mean, it's functioning in the sense that I can type, I can kind of move it, but the same thing applies across the board. No lifting, no pushing, nothing like that until I see the doctor in June. But other than that, I mean, I can move my hand. I've got some movement. But that's all I need, really, to be able to type, really. To be able to type. And, you know, as long as I can kind of do some motions, it should be alright. It should be alright. Today, folks, we do have some headlines to go through. I have been noticing that most of the news cycle headlines, whatnot, are focused mostly on that Supreme Court draft that was leaked. So we're going to talk a little bit about that, go through some of those articles, and then we've got 2 climate change articles to go through. So we've got quite a Monday. We've got quite a Monday. All right. Let me make sure we got everything. All right. We do have everything good to go. There we go. Nice. Let's start off with some good stuff, right? Let's start off the day. Let's kick the day off. Hey, I didn't want ads. Come on. There we go. And GOP governor defends law forcing incest victims to carry pregnancy to term and won't rule out criminalizing IUDs. Quote, why is it acceptable in your state? Jesus. Why is it acceptable in your state to force girls who are victims of incest to carry those children to term? CNN's Jake Tapper asked Mississippi Governor Tate Reeves, whose state has a trigger law set to ban abortion immediately if the Supreme Court, when the Supreme Court overturns Roe v. Wade. That law, also called the Snapback Law, does not include an exception for allowing victims of incest to access abortion care. That's kind of a weird one. Like I said, every time you see these type of language, it's really, to me, just one big red self-report button being pressed. The only exceptions in the law are cases of rape and when the life of the mother is in danger. When asked on Sunday whether Mississippi would enforce that snapback law, which looks increasingly likely thanks to that leaked draft opinion, Reeves told Tapper that he would. Yes, Mississippi does have a trigger law in place. It passed in 2007, and that trigger law will go into effect. Mind you, the reason why we should probably point this out, the reason why this story is important to point out is because, well, there's going to be a lot of these laws that are going to start coming into effect. All across red states. When Roe is overturned, pro-choice Governor Gretchen Whitmer in Michigan, on the other hand, has gone to court in an attempt to prevent the state's trigger law from going to effect if the Supreme Court nullifies Roe. I mean, like, why? Why not? Why not? What's the problem? You're going all the way. Might as well. When Tapper asked Reeves to explain why there's no exceptions in Mississippi's trigger law, the Republican governor glibly replied, "Well, that's going to be the law because in 2007 the Mississippi legislature passed it." What a coward! Why not own it? Why not own it? Weak sauce. Why not own it and say, you know what? Yeah, I'm glad. I'm glad they passed it in 2007. That's what we wanted this entire time.
So the snapback law that was passed in 2007 has no exception for incest. So assuming that the Supreme Court overturns Roe v. Wade, the state of Mississippi will force girls and women who are the victims of incest to carry those childs to term.
Yep.
Can you explain why that is going to be your law?
Well, that's going to be the law because in 2007, the Mississippi legislature passed it. I will tell you, Jake, and this sort of speaks to how far the Democrats in Washington have come on this issue.
Oh my God, are you for real? What an absolute coward. This dude can't even summon the stones to just own the position. This dude couldn't even summon the stones to own the position. He should have been like, oh yeah, of course, that's what we wanted. Duh. What? No exceptions for incest? Of course. We, the Republican Party, put that into effect just in case. We've been working at this for decades. We've been working at this for decades. Of course we wanted that.
But in 2007, when the trigger law was put in place, we had a Democrat Speaker of the House, and we had a Democrat Chairman of the Public Health Committee in the Mississippi House of Representatives.
Okay, that's not answering the question, though. So are you saying that the Democratic Party passed that law? I mean, so you're against it or for it? I'm not sure. What's the... This guy's speaking on a whole other thing. Like I said, why is it just so hard to own it? I don't get it. Alio, how's it going? Will Biden be able to get Roe v. Wade codified into law to stop this? No. Not outright. Not really. Arizona senator who wants to ban condoms nationally. LA and 3 other states want to ban Plan B and IUDs, and multiple others are wanting to ban away other ways women control their own bodies. This was never just about abortion. Oh yeah, I 100% agree, Fu Manchu. 100%. That's why it's so important to talk about like where this is going. It's unbelievable. There isn't much Biden by himself can do other than rally the Democratic Party. Just rally the Democratic Party and get something done. That's pretty much his main job right now. Where are the pharma companies? The condom companies? I was listening while doing chores. No problem. I'm just glad you're hanging out. I have no clue, Sunrays. Not gonna lie. You bring up a good point, but I don't know.
Why are you going to
particular piece of legislation?
Why is it acceptable in your state to force girls who are victims of incest to carry those children to term?
Well, as you know, Jake, over 92% of all abortions in America are elective procedures. When you look at the number of those...
Okay, that has nothing to do with the question. Nothing to do with the question. Like literally the day after SCOTUS ruling on Roe v. Wade came out, individual Dems in Congress were saying we have to codify it. We still have not done so. Obama ran on codifying it. Yeah, mind you, I mean, like I said, there's no point in like rehashing it. But yes, Obama did have the ability to codify it and did not. Biden mentioned it in his campaign too. Right, like Biden's number one job right now is to rally the Dems to have some type of unified, effective opposition. But that's not, it's just not there. It's just not there. Can you point me to which Arizona senator wants to ban condoms nationally? I need that link so we can go over that, Fu Manchu.
Those that actually are involved in incest is less than 1%. And if we need to have that conversation in the future about potential exceptions in the trigger law, we can certainly do that. But the reality is that, again, that affects less than 1% of all abortions in America on an annual basis.
Okay, but that is going to be the law of Mississippi. Let me...
Right.
Just to be clear, the state of Mississippi, you're not going to then target IUD or Plan B, which are methods of birth control that might not allow a fertilized egg to be implanted. And this is not a theoretical construct. This is not the state of Louisiana, which I recognize is a neighboring state, not your state. I mean, they're talking about not only criminally charging girls and women who get abortions as being committing homicide, but they're also talking about defining the moment of conception as fertilization, which would theoretically, if this were to become the law of Louisiana, and it is not yet, mean that murder, if you use an IUD, you are committing murder theoretically. So it's not, I'm not making this up. These are the conversations going on in legislatures in your area. But so just to be clear, you have no intention of seeking to ban IUDs or Plan B?
That is not what we're focused on at this time. We're focused on looking at see what the court allows for. The bill that is before the court is a 15-week ban. We believe that the overturning of Roe is the correct decision by the court, and so in Mississippi we don't have laws on the books that would lead to arresting individuals or anything along those lines.
You mean not arresting girls or women, but you would arrest doctors?
Well, certainly, I don't think that that you're going to see doctors performing abortions if we have a state statute which says that they are not allowable except for those.
The answer to that question is yes, of course. Realistically, they would love if they could punish the women. Send it to me directly, Fu Manchu. Sorry, by whispers, I should say. They would love nothing more than to have the ability to put folks in prison for this. It makes me so mad at this time. Why is it any of their business? Of course. Is Biden running in 2024? Honestly, I think that the Democratic Party is so incompetent, so out of touch, that they might actually run Biden again. There have been some signals that he's going to try to run again, but quite frankly, I think it would be a mistake. I think it would be a mistake. Hey Thandera, how's it going? The GOP MAGA turning into the sex police? They're not just turning into the sex police. They're turning into the I want to be in every single aspect of your life, up to and including making you enforcing forced birth. There's literally 64% support for Roe versus Wade. Right. Absolutely. I had to remind people that fascism is not the same as the CDC/Fauci guidance. Well, if you think that CDC or Fauci is like a fascistic institution, then I don't think you understand the words. I voted not Trump, but there's no way in hell I can vote for that old dude again. I mean, like, all I'm saying is that electoralism is certainly a tool and certainly should not be ceded to the right, because you best believe that all this is happening when Republicans get elected. All this is happening because Republicans win. That's all I'm saying. Or I should say, when Republicans win, this is the consequences. It seems like they just want steady supply of wage slaves who have no time to protest or fight for better lives. Maybe. I just think it's very simple. I just think they just want to control, as authoritarians do. As authoritarians do. Maybe there's some like aspect to that, Fu Manchu, but to me it's just Occam's razor. Authoritarians do what authoritarians do. They are the Anunnaki of 2022. I have no idea what that means. Democratic National Committee. Oh, here's a good meme. Alright, so let's keep, let's finish this story. James Tapper also pointed out to Reeves that his state has a very poor history of caring for parents and their children. Mississippi, as you know, has the highest rate of infant mortality in the US. You have the highest rate of child poverty in the US. Your state has no guaranteed maternity leave that's paid. The legislature in Mississippi has just rejected extending postpartum Medicaid coverage. Foster care system is the subject of long-running federal lawsuit over its failure to protect children from abuse. So, Jake Tapper's point is very clear here. Jake Tapper is very clear here and illustrating the point that these folks are not pro-life. They do not care about the children. It was never about that whatsoever. You say you want to do more to support mothers and children, but you have been in state government since 2004. You were the state treasurer. You were the lieutenant governor, and now you're the governor. Based on the track record of the state of Mississippi, why should any of these girls or moms believe you? Very good point. Very good point. At the end of the day, these folks don't actually care about the children or anything like that. To me, it has always been about control. That's it. That's literally it. Gray Leo, how's it going? Howdy, howdy. Did you hear Mark Meadows committed voter fraud himself, has registered to vote in 2020 with an address of a mobile home he has never lived at? I mean, I wouldn't be surprised. Did you see that video Majority Report retweeted of the guy yelling at protesters? What? I gotta find this. Is it on the Twitters? Can you just send that to me, Kraylio? Yeah, just whisper it to me. Can you, I could have sworn I can't find the, the tweet. And Troma, how's it going? Tendera, can you send that to me? Schumer and Pelosi can do what Biden can't? Yeah. Oh my god. So, in case we had any doubts, in case we needed any type of doubt of where these people's mindsets are, let's take a listen. Listen, we don't have to create narratives. So Trump's own chief of staff was committing voter fraud. I mean, like I said, it wouldn't surprise me. It wouldn't surprise me. Every time, it always seems to be the case that whenever these people bring something up, it's always a massive self-report, you know? Every single time. Anyways, listen, we don't gotta build narratives. GOP stands for gaslight, obstruct, and project. That's right. We don't gotta spin narratives. We don't gotta put words in anybody's mouths. We don't even gotta lie. Listen, just listen to them. Let's hear it out. All right. Let's hear out what the what's this whole entire debate is about. Let's just listen.
Hey, not the church, not the state, the people must decide their fate.
I'm the people. I'm the people. I am the people. The people have decided. The court has decided. You lose.
They say no choice, we say no choice.
You have no choice. Not your body, not your choice. Your body is mine, and you're having my baby.
That's right. That's right. We don't gotta... There's nothing left to imply here. There's nothing to imply. There's nothing suggestive. It's pretty explicit, actually. It's almost always projection true. And this guy is in the New York Fire Department? Sheesh. How long before F the Fire Department song comes out? Nah, I think it's just that one guy. I got a new laptop with 6 processors, AMD and Windows 11, make it AW. Nice. It's all good, Sunrays. Cornbread, how's it going? Anyways, yeah, there's nothing to extrapolate from this other than... I mean, there's nothing left to the imagination, right? This is exactly how they think. This is exactly what they want. It's all about control. As I said, this wasn't some fantastical narrative that you need to spin. It's right there. They'll tell you. They'll tell you. That's right, saying the quiet part out loud. Yep. Alio with the 10 biddies. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Half the church and half the state. Yeah, these things do not belong. First of all, do not belong together, intertwined, or anywhere near each other. Yep, there's not much to interpret here. Arizona GOP Senate candidate wants to ban condoms in all states. A new report by the Arizona Mirror has revealed that one Arizona Republican candidate for the U.S. Senate wants to actually ban condoms in all states. The Arizona Mirror reports after U.S. Supreme Court overturns women's constitutional right to abortion this summer, one Arizona Republican candidate for U.S. Senate thinks judges should also take aim at the right to buy and use contraception. Yeah. Blake Masters, a Tucson-based venture capitalist, calls for overturning Griswold versus Connecticut, which protects a married couple's right to buy and use contraceptives without government restrictions. If Griswold versus Connecticut is overturned, states could ban condoms and other contraception. On his website, Masters says that he will only vote to confirm federal judges who understand that Roe and Griswold were wrongly decided and there's no such constitutional right to abortion. The ruling in Griswold versus Connecticut in 1965 protected a married couple's right to buy and use contraceptives without government restrictions. Blake Masters is the first top Republican running for high office to have this stance on contraceptive use, putting him on the opposite side of issues from the National Republican Senatorial Committee, the campaign arm of GOP senators, which has advised candidates on talking points following the leaked draft opinion overturning Roe v. Wade. Yeah, this is where they're heading, folks. I'm not even kidding. This is a non-fallacious slippery slope. This is a non-fallacious slippery slope. This is a freaking bobsled competition. Theo-fascists are really having their year in 2022? Yeah, unfortunately. Mississippi also said it may ban all contraceptives as well. Jesus. And he actually has a solid chance to win his primary. Wait, did I miss something? Oh, okay. Okay, cool. They successfully forced their religious bullshit on everybody. Dems got their hands in their pockets and their heads down because they want to use this to get reelected. It wouldn't, let's just say it wouldn't surprise me if that's the game plan, but like, Jesus Christ. I don't know. I don't know how... I don't know how effective we're gonna be here. I don't know what the game plan is, because like, man, I don't know if you're going to have well, I don't know. I guess we'll just have to see how it plays out, because I'm gonna be honest, this is a curveball, okay? This is a curveball in the midterms of just before the midterms. So I'm not gonna lie, I have no idea just how much this is going to affect the outcomes in the midterms. I have no idea. in a section instructing candidates on how to forcefully refute Democrat lies. Jesus. About Republican positions on abortion and healthcare. The NRSC declares that Republicans do not want to take away contraception. Yeah, like I said, these folks, whenever they say one thing, it's usually the opposite. So, none of this can be trusted. Blake Masters is not just another Republican. He might win the GOP primary for the U.S. Senate in Arizona because of one man, Donald frickin' Trump. President Trump hasn't yet to endorse the AZ candidate, but Masters is viewed as the favorite to receive this endorsement. That's a good meme. Listen, if Marjorie Taylor Greene, if people like Madison Cawthorn can be elected, if someone like Madison Cawthorn can win their elections, and like Marjorie Taylor Greene, Lauren Boebert, that type of stuff scares me. I hope people understand this element of the right is mostly powered by evangelical Christians. Yep. I've been surrounded by them my entire life, and they're legitimately Christian dominionists, and they're not just... And it's not just the fringe of American Christians. I agree. It's a problem. All of Trump's justices lied. Yep. We've got oh man, we've got some juicy quotes, I think. I think I can pull them up actually on my phone. I think I have this specifically saved. Oh yeah. November 2006. I think this was Alito. Quote, Roe v. Wade is an important precedent of the Supreme Court. Lies. I think this is Neil Gorsuch. March 2017. That's the law of the land, and I accept the law of the land. Another lie. September 2018. Mr. I Like Beer. It's settled as precedent of the Supreme Court. Another lie. October 2020. Roe v. Wade was clearly held that the Constitution protected a woman's right to terminate a pregnancy. Amy Coney Barrett. They do keep pushing their religious BS on us. This reminds me of a lecture I watched a couple years ago about the future of America's predictions about white, far-right Christians and billionaires are all coming true. It's crazy. Yeah, I think this whole, like, fundamentalist stuff is very, very scary. And then you have Texas trying to get the death penalty for women who get abortions. That's, yeah... Imagine calling yourself pro-life and attempting to slap a murder charge on a woman for a self-inducing abortion or something like that. They're so pro-life that they'll kill you for it. Exactly. Jesus. Ain't that the truth? Yeah, being pro-life is like a misnomer. There's absolutely nothing pro-life about any of their positions. It's just a misnomer, or it's a sugar pill. It's a branding sugar pill designed to make people think that all you care about is being pro-life. It sounds good. It's a branding exercise. I still have not heard that lady has ever gotten released. I thought the charges were dropped in that story. I'm gonna have to follow up, but I'm pretty sure the charges were dropped. Because The question is whether or not she was released. That's those are two separate things. All right, let's see. Let's see if there's anything else. Texas. Even though the charges were dropped, they were still holding her. Gotcha. Yeah, the last thing that I have here is from April. As of April 12th, we don't know, as far as I can tell. If anybody can find something, feel free to let us know. But as far as I'm searching here, I don't actually see anything other than charges were dropped. Nothing, nothing here. Yeah, this is why some of these arguments just absolutely infuriate me. I was having an argument with somebody, and they were trying to make the justification or continuously using the word murder when it comes to abortion. This is another branding exercise, by the way. If you ever see conservatives try to make use of the words murder, that's a branding exercise. It's rhetorical. It's a rhetoric trick. Even though they dropped the charges, they were still holding her. She may be still sitting in jail with no court date and no charges. Yikes. Yeah, I can't find any updates here, Kraylio. Pro-forced birth. Yeah, they should just say that. Come on. Absolute cowards. Own your positions. Own your positions. Yeah, nothing here, Kraylio, that I can see. Ghostly booty, howdy, howdy. Get 'em, ADT. Yeah, that's our job. Alright, let's take a look here. Actually, we still gotta finish this one here. Alright, the response. Democrats plan state legislative firewalls after abortion ruling leak. Democrats are preparing to spend more money than ever to defend majorities in key state legislative chambers across the country. A mission top strategy say was made all the more critical after a draft the Supreme Court opinion striking down the federal right to an abortion leaked earlier this week. In a memo outlining its top priorities, the Democratic Legislative Campaign Committee said its chief mission was to preserve the party's majority in state legislatures in Colorado, Maine, Minnesota, Nevada, New Mexico, all states where incumbent Democratic governors face re-election this year. I mean, like, I'm not gonna lie, I think that this would be probably a good priority. At least for the local strategies, like statewide. I think that it is crucial that states that remain in Democratic hands should stay that way. Despite, you know, my obvious grievances when it comes to at least a state-to-state basis. Yeah, it's absolutely crucial. I hope this week is splendiferous for y'all. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. I live in Michigan. Am I going to lose my right to an abortion? Honestly, it is highly likely that this is going to be the case. The reality is, we're going to have to see the exact final ruling next month. But it don't look good. I mean, what am I supposed to say? The reality is, we gotta see the final ruling in June. But it don't look good. Can I send a video with a quick timestamp? Yeah, send it to me in whispers. We're clear-eyed about the tough fight ahead. We need to invest in durable Democratic majorities that can withstand Republican targeting and spending. The Post told reporters this week that this week's leak of a draft opinion authored by Justice Samuel Alito upholding a Mississippi law that bans abortions more than 15 weeks after conception and striking down both Roe and Casey, Planned Parenthood versus Casey, has put an added pressure over their bids to preserve legislative seats. Well, I mean, like I said, yes, but also, you absolute clowns. You've had so many chances. You absolute clowns. You've had so many chances. I'm afraid we're going to see a lot of our rights going away over the next few years. I mean, if this really does go through and it becomes a reality, well, then all bets are off, because by this logic, we're going to see potentially other stuff going down too, because, well, the conservative supermajority will be more emboldened in the Supreme Court. Most states will outlaw abortion. 17 states already have laws that will take effect when Roe... Yes, the, what is it called? The, trigger laws. And 17 more have bills that would just take effect within a year. So within a year, only 16 states would be left. Yikes. Which is why I agree with the idea that absolutely it is crucial that whatever, blue majorities there are in state by state, basis, that they should remain so. There's certainly a lot of grassroots enthusiasm going into states that to protect Roe versus Wade. The stakes are higher because we need to see abortion rights protected. Well, like I said, you absolute clowns, you've had multiple chances and you blew it. You blew it. Next, they will go after gay marriage, and now we also see contraception. Oh, yeah. This is not stopping at Roe versus Wade. Authoritarians don't have boundaries, don't have the concept of boundaries. Benjamin B. Dixon, rating with a party of 9. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Welcome, everybody. I sent a video, but the part is at 38:31. No problem. We'll take a look in just a second. Folks, if you don't know who we are A Difficult Truth. We do the news, we do the politics Monday through Thursday, 9 a.m. Eastern Time. And we also have Saturday Catterdays at about noon Eastern Time. If you guys are new here, consider hitting that follow button. You get 5 free emotes, including Bakita the cat. So that's cool. And also, folks, if you haven't already, make sure you take 5 seconds and go support The Benjamin P. Dixon Show, twitch.tv/The Benjamin P. Dixon Show. They do fantastic work. Thank you so much for the raid. I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. And welcome, everybody. I hope everyone's having an awesome, as best as possible, Monday. We are continuing some coverage here on the, Roe versus Wade leak. All right, I think we're gonna play that part after we're done with some of these things here, Tendera. Democrats are still trying to climb off the mat after drubbing in state legislative elections in 2010, defeats that allowed Republicans to control the redistricting process in many states, a process the GOP used to effectively lock in their majority status for most of the rest of the decade. Jesus. Today, Republicans control both chambers of legislature in 30 states, while Democrats hold control in 17. Legislative chambers in 2 states, Minnesota and Virginia, are divided between parties at near a historic low and a sign of increasing partisanship that drives American politics. The last state, Nebraska, which has an ostensibly nonpartisan unicameral legislature, though in practice the state senate there is dominated by Republicans, so it's not nonpartisan. After that Republican wave a dozen years ago, and the subsequent remapping process that gave the GOP such an edge, Democrats have struggled to make progress. Republicans controlled 3,979 state, House, and Senate seats after the 2020 elections. Today, they hold exactly that same number. Jesus. And 3,303 today. There are about 10 more independent or other party legislators around the country than they were a decade ago. Measured by control of the legislature, Republicans today hold power in 63 chambers, including Nebraska, just one up from a decade ago. Democrats control 37, the same number they held after the 2010 election. A list of states where Democrats believe they can make progress underscores the reality of a difficult partisan environment. In the 2020 presidential elections, Democrats targeted Republican-controlled state chambers in states like Texas, Florida, Georgia, Arizona, and Pennsylvania. The memo produced by the DLCC this week lists Georgia, Arizona, and Pennsylvania's longer shot chances, but makes no mention of Texas and Florida. Because Texas and Florida in particular is way, I think that it's pretty much a, ruby red. I would actually put more money into a Texas push than I would Florida, if that makes sense. We see the Sun Belt as an area of key growth long term. We're looking at Texas across the decade. We're also looking at Florida across the decade, but we need to balance our resources. I mean, yeah, but like I said, all of this could have been prevented. Anyways, the Republicans said the DLCC's memo reflected the realities of a harsh political environment for the party that holds the White House. Even the DLCC is admitting that Joe Biden is dragging down state Democrats and that they're in huge trouble ahead of November. What? Oh man, what was that supposed to be, some type of secret? Was that supposed to be some type of closely held secret? Okay. Sure. Said Andrew Romero, a spokesman for the Republican State Leadership Committee, the DLCC's GOP counterpart. Like I said, all of this could have been... they could have been in a better position should they have done what they needed to do when they had the chance. And they didn't. They failed. I mean, What else is there to say? The Democratic Party failed. There's just no way of really going around that. There's just no way to really mince words around that. Alright, I think we need to see some of this here. This is probably a good moment for content warning before we get started, just saying. Just content warning. Also, if you guys want to check out the video individually, there's a link. So yeah, content warning again.
Before we begin our next segment, a warning to our viewers and listeners. It includes descriptions of sexual violence. Yes, we end today's show looking at how the Supreme Court appears set to overturn both Roe v. Wade and Planned Parenthood versus Casey, two landmark decisions that protect U.S. abortion rights. On Monday, Politico published a leaked draft of Justice Samuel Alito's majority opinion in the case known as Dobbs versus Jackson Women's Health. It was on the eve of the court's oral arguments in the Dobbs case in November that law professor Michelle Goodwin wrote a guest essay in the New York Times. It was headlined, "I was raped by my father, and abortion saved my life." In a minute, Professor Goodwin will join us. First, I want to read how her essay begins. She writes, quote, "On Wednesday, the Supreme Court will hear oral arguments on the constitutionality of a 15-week abortion ban in Mississippi that provides no exceptions in cases of rape or incest. What's at stake in this case matters to the countless girls and women who have been raped, including those who, like me, were raped by a father, an uncle, or another family member. It was the early morning of my 10th birthday, the first time I was raped by my father. It would not be the last. The shock was so severe I temporarily went blind before I began the 5th grade a few weeks later. By the time the school year began, my father had taken me to see a battery of doctors, and medical explanation would paper over the fact that the trauma caused by his sexual violence had caused my body to shut down. The physiological suffering that I endured included severe migraines, hair loss, and even gray hair at 10 years old. While other girls may have longed for puberty, I loathed the idea of it. My body became a vessel that was not mine. It had been taken from me. I lived in fear of the night and the footsteps outside my bedroom door." Those are the opening words of Michelle Goodwin's New York Times guest essay last November, headlined, "I was raped by my father and abortion saved my life." Again, written on the eve of the court's decision that could overturn the constitutional right to abortion. Michelle Goodwin joins us now. She's Chancellor's Professor at the University of California, Irvine School of Law, founding director of the Center for Biotechnology and Global Health Policy, and has written the book Policing the Womb: Invisible Women and the Criminalization of Motherhood. Professor Goodwin,
how's it going,
welcome
Maple
back
Leaf
to
Dragon?
Democracy Now! We appreciate you joining us again this week. Can you start off by talking about why you chose to write that essay?
Amy, it's important that we all understand that the new aspect of anti-abortion provisions includes an aspect that we would not have seen even 5 years ago, and that is that they make no exceptions for cases of rape or incest. Now, these laws on their own are really quite chilling and horrific when we understand, just as a baseline, the importance of reproductive liberty and freedom, and when we understand that a woman or girl is 14 times more likely to die by carrying a pregnancy to term than by an abortion in the United States. So that's just a baseline anyway. But then when we add on to it that these laws have this kind of punitive aspect as well, such that if you have been raped or that you have somehow survived incest, that you too may no longer have an exception that would provide for the ability to terminate a pregnancy, then we
Correct. What a heck of a story, right?
really understand that these laws have nothing to do, and they never have had anything to do with protecting, respecting the autonomy, the dignity, the privacy of women or girls. In fact, they're just simply cruel types of laws that are power plays that fit into a history of controlling women's bodies and a history, quite specifically, of controlling the bodies of Black and brown women. I mean, it's been all women who've been subjected to the cruelties of such laws, but they have a particularly pernicious effect when we actually understand the historical implications too. As to rape and incest, I thought it was really important to legitimize that conversation and move us away from the taboo where we're not supposed to talk about those things, and where clearly the Supreme Court is not talking about that at all, as it was not raised in oral argument. And in the leaked draft opinion that was circulated this week, Justice Alito does not even bother to actually mention rape or incest in any part of the nearly 100-page draft opinion.
When you talk about the health...
Right, because it's a massive self-report. That's it. Yeah. I got a question. Has the religious right just lost all sense of morality at this point? They've always been like this. They've always been like this. That's the problem. When you have extremist, fundamentalist folks, they have always had this mindset. This was there from the get-go. It's just that now they've got political institutions that have legitimized them. That's what it is, really. You've got folks like Amy Coney Barrett, Brett Kavanaugh, all these extremists have legitimized these points, these positions. That's all. They've always been here. Hey, Heat, how's it going? Howdy, howdy.
Of African-American women, also the mortality rate, maternal mortality rate of African-American women. Go more deeply into how these laws so deeply affect pregnant people all over the country, but particularly African-American women and low-income women.
That's right. I mean, as a general matter, we should all be horrified because as a general matter, Black women are the canaries in the coal mine. What happens to them eventually reaches everybody else, though not always to the same degree. And that's also been historically true as well. As you look at states like Mississippi, Alabama.
I mean, listen, these folks aren't going to stop, so I don't know.
Texas. As a national matter, Black women are nearly 4 times more likely to die than white women by carrying pregnancies to term, 3.5 times more likely. But when you drill that number down and you actually peer under the hood and you look in states such as I've mentioned, and you look even deeper within certain counties that have high populations of Black women, and you see then, well, in those places, Black women are 5, 10, 15, 17 times more likely to die by carrying pregnancies to term than their white counterpart. And if you look at that national statistic that I gave you, that women generally are 14 times more likely to die by carrying a pregnancy to term than an abortion, well, in Mississippi, it's over 100 times more likely to die. In fact, nearly 180 times more likely to die if you're a Black woman in Mississippi and you're coerced into carrying a pregnancy to term. You're that much more likely to die than by having an abortion. And so these alarming, really real alarming statistics that in any other category of health, if we heard that, the alarm bells would be ringing and the government would be saying, don't choose the alternative at all. We want to keep you alive. But what's very interesting when it comes to pregnancy and pronatalism in this country, it's not about actually caring about the health of women, girls, people who can become pregnant.
Oh, yeah, no. They don't give a crap about that at all. It's always and always has been, as she mentioned earlier, about control. The people screaming to others about being Christian are the most unchristian people in the world. Yeah, I mean, there's no greater hate than Christian love, my friends.
Even though the data that I've just shared with you comes from the CDC, it comes from the departments of health in these individual states. This is not data that's being made up by people who are pro-choice. This is data that we're getting from the governments in Florida and Texas. This is Governor Abbott's data that helps us to know that Texas is one of the most dangerous places in the entire developed world for a person to be pregnant.
Yikes.
I wanted to ask you about the Louisiana law. Well, it's not a law yet. It's been proposed that makes the destruction of a fertilized human egg at any stage of its development an act of murder, punishable presumably by Louisiana's death penalty.
Wait. Oh my goodness. Is that really the proposal here? Like I said, these folks are not going to stop. These folks are not going to stop. It would make in vitro fertilization illegal? Jeez. Oh my goodness. Like I said, yeah, these folks won't stop. This isn't like a fallacious slippery slope. This is a literal freaking bobsled competition. Absolutely.
I mean, this is astounding. You're talking about, what about a person who works in a fertility clinic who is holding a test tube with a fertilized egg and drops that test tube?
Nope.
Could they be charged with murder?
Well, this is where we're in a space that I call the new Jane Crow. These laws that are not rational, they're quite illogical, and even more, they're punitive, they're cruel, they're absolutely excessive.
Well, yeah, there's no rhyme or reason to it. Authoritarians don't need rhyme or reason. It's about control. That's it. There's no rhyme or reason to it, nor does there need to be. It is all about control. That's it. The cruelty is the point. Right, control. Yes. You do it because you can.
You know, if you think about the work of Pauli Murray, she was in many ways the godmother of the civil rights movement. Thurgood Marshall said that the book that she wrote on race laws was the Bible of the civil rights movement. And it's about 800 pages, single space, all of these crazy, really crazy Jim Crow laws, such as, you know, Black people can't play checkers in the park. That ridiculous that you think who in the world thought of that and would connect a fine and also criminal punishment if Black people are caught playing checkers in the park. Well, in the new Jane Crow, we see laws such as and propositions such as what you've just described. They make absolutely no sense, but they're absolutely cruel, and they're meant to cause fear and to chill behavior. And they're
right. Exactly. The cruelty is the point because the point is control. You can have control by force, making cruel laws, and enforcing cruel laws. Or you can have control by manipulation. That's basically it. I was raised Catholic and left it behind when I was 13. I still live by tenets, treat others how I would like to be treated, charity for those who need it, and the life of service is a fulfilling life to lead. Right, but those can be divorced from, like, religious institutions. Like, you don't need Christianity to come to the conclusion that, hey, maybe, you know, maybe you should treat, like, human beings, you know? Because that's kind of, like, how I would want to be treated. Like a human being, like a person, like I matter. I don't, yeah, exactly. I don't need Christianity or Catholicism or whatever to tell me that I should help when I can. That I should do what I can with the tools that I have, with the time that I have. And there's no better feeling than to have the exact tools and you know, the exact thing to help somebody. Yeah, all the garbage that comes with those nuggies of wisdom isn't worth it. Right, you just learned the lessons and moved on, right? Well, that's good. Right, Jared Cardenas, you just do it. You just do it because that should be, like, kind of the primary modus operandi of human beings, ideally. Right? in an ideal world, the basis should always be, the ability or the ability to work together, the ability to help one another, the notion that we should all treat each other as human beings, respect. Respect the idea that we are all human beings. What sets us apart from apes is our ability to help without being asked, I read yesterday. Interesting. Although I don't know. I think I've seen I don't know if it's like primates, or other animals that do have altruistic capabilities. I'm not sure if I'm not sure. Maybe I'm thinking of some other type of species. I mean, like you also wait a minute. It just kind of came to me. You've seen like stories about dolphins helping without. I mean, like obviously we can't communicate, but we've seen dolphins rescue people clearly in danger. Well, I mean, have we not seen the ability of dogs to come out there and help? Or I've seen cats. Oh, that's why I qualified it with I just read that. Yeah, I'm just kind of like thinking through the thought process there live. The word is altruistic, right? Altruistic behavior.
Reach is beyond what we could grasp or even imagine. And that's also really what policing the womb is about. It is a warning call because we've already seen, again, as Black women in the canaries in the coal mine, we've seen that kind of punitive punishment with Black women being dragged out of hospitals in shackles and chains in the late 1980s and 90s because they were imperfect in how they carried their pregnancies. No exact laws saying that they could or should be dragged out of hospitals in such punitive ways or giving birth in prison and on toilets and concrete floors. But the specter of policing their pregnancies, this kind of specter that the state owns everything with regard to your reproductive capacities, leads us into a space where there's dramatic surveillance, and it's frightening for people. And that's what these laws are meant to do. Yes, they'll criminalize.
Yes, it's definitely frightening. As it should. As it should. And if you think, like I said, if you think that this is where it's gonna stop, if you think that that's where this is going to stop, well, got a bridge to sell you. And if you think that it's not going to affect you, it is not that long ago. That's true. If this goes through, and you think you're not going to be affected by it because, well, hey, I don't got a uterus, I don't got a womb, I ain't got nothing to worry about. If you think that it's not going to affect you, well, I would say that that is a naive way of thinking. I would say that that is a naive way of thinking. I mean, just the simplest one, because, you got to talk to folks like, unfortunately, this mentality of it's not a problem until it's my problem kind of mentality sometimes to reach people. Well, I'm just saying, I'm just putting that out there. You've got proposals, ideas floating around about banning contraceptives, about banning condoms and things like that, or making it making it much more difficult to access something so simple as like a condom, as something so simple as a condom. They're going to try to make it more difficult. There have been already proposals, already ideas. There are candidates currently running for the Republican Party who would do such a thing. If you don't think that this is going to affect you because you don't have a womb or uterus, you would be naive. Because once they ban contraceptives, guess what? Average child support is about 25%, like just minimum. Average child support starts at about 25% of your annual income. That's right, about a quarter. I remember that crime went down in the generation that following Roe v. Wade was upheld. Obviously, for a few reasons contribute, but fewer unwanted pregnancies lead to stability. Damn, it's almost like crime has an overwhelming socioeconomic aspect to it. It's almost like crime has an overwhelming socioeconomic aspect to it. This is all part of the legacy of legislating fear as a means of total control of the population. Right. That's like I said, Maple Leaf Dragon, authoritarians are going to authoritarian. They're not going to stop. They know no boundaries when it comes to this type of stuff. If they can get away with it, they'll keep going. I'll say it again, this isn't a fallacious slippery slope, this is a dang bobsled competition.
Criminally punished and possibly even death sentence, but they're meant to instill fear in people.
I mean, you look at a most recent case that got a good amount of attention. It was the case of Lizelle Herrera. She is the Latinx woman in Texas who was charged with murder for, quote unquote, a self-induced abortion. Now, because of groups like the Frontera Fund and women of color massively protesting, very much now that's the exception to the rule. And she was released and the charges were dropped.
Oh, wait.
But if the Supreme Court...
Hey, damn, somebody asked me about this earlier. Well, that's good to hear. Craleo. She was released. Craleo asked me about this story earlier. She was released. So that's good news.
Rules as we think it will based on this leak, this will become the rule of law.
Yes, well, what we'll see is just like in Jim Crow times or antebellum times, there are places where women can be free and girls can be free and may not have to worry. And even there, I would put some caution around it because in California, just a couple years ago in the Valley, there was a prosecutor who attempted to prosecute, in fact, was prosecuting a woman for murder in the case of her stillbirth. But yes, what we will begin to see is that there will be states where people will not be free, where they will, in fact, be policed. And that kind of policing will also be connected to sex profiling, just like racial profiling, right? This hyper-intensive look at what are girls and women doing with...
Right, and like, what better way to encourage this type of behavior than to put a bounty, like Texas did, to have fellow citizens enforce this at a incentive of what, 10K was it? I think it was 10K. Oh, I agree, Maple Leaf Dragon. That's right. The person who controls... Yes, it was 10K. Gotcha. Okay, gotcha.
Their bodies, there will be a turn to and pressure on nurses, on doctors, on medical staff to breach millennia-old practices of confidentiality between themselves and their patients. And they will breach that and will share that information just as we saw in that case.
Yes. The only reason that person in Texas was prosecuted, well, not prosecuted, they attempted to bring murder charges against her. The only reason that happened was because the facility had to, I assume because of regulatory whatever, had to release that information. That's how they attempted to bring charges against that woman in Texas, Herrera.
With law enforcement. And then the next step will be arrest. And this is not just simply anecdotal. As I record in my book, in the state of Alabama already, there have been hundreds of women who have come under the inspection of the state, charged and arrested under fetal endangerment or child endangerment in that case, laws that would extend child, the definition of a child, to a fetus. And in Alabama, as I've mentioned, Black women, canaries in the coal mine there, the majority of those women happen to be white, but they all are poor, or the vast majority of them are poor or working class women who've already come under the attention of the state.
Right, because obviously, if you don't have the means, if you don't have the economic means in this system, you're effed. You're SOL'd, fam. Especially, next month, should the decision come as expected. If you don't have the means to get yourself out of that red state, I don't know what to tell you.
This prurient kind of way. So what we have to understand is, just while we've seen at the Supreme Court level this attack that's finally reached its pinnacle up to the Supreme Court to dismantle Roe v. Wade, this work has had tentacles, and it's been working to criminalize women and also to impose civil punishments associated with pregnancy.
I wanted to ask you, Professor Goodwin, about the medication abortion, the pill. The LA Times lead story, abortion pills, a post-Roe game changer and the next battleground. The opening line, the future of abortion in the U.S. is moving to the mailbox. It's also the front page story today of the New York Times. In abortion fight, pills could be the next focus. And it might surprise some people to know that more than half of abortions in the United States are results of taking these pills. You just did a podcast on this. Can you talk about this issue?
That's right. That's right. So in Europe, this has been liberalized for decades. And due to political machinations and with the Food and Drug Administration, which at times can be captured by outside sources.
That's a good point, Heat.
It was stalled in the United States. But now, for more than a decade, just about a decade in the United States.
It's kind of proving her argument, is it not? You're correct, Heat. Her name was Herrera, not like, not to stereotype, but not like Smith or anything like that. Yeah.
We have a significant number of pregnancy terminations, abortions being done through medication. They're incredibly safe. The World Health Organization has compared an abortion to the safety of a penicillin shot. So these pills are very, very safe. It's worth noting that during the Trump administration.
Right. Not only that, when you have these type of abortions, like the pill is just like that's it. It's literally a pill. That's it. You're done. The Q people already think hospitals and clinics that distribute vaccines are murder factories. I've seen interviews of people saying on camera that they're going to start doxing nurses for the purpose of vigilante justice. Yeah. Yeah, I believe it, Maple Leaf Dragon. Like I said, extremists, these folks have been here this entire time. They just morph and evolutionize as the time, goes on.
Of over 22,000 drugs that one could receive in the mail during the height of COVID, medication, abortion, these pills were the only ones where a person had to go to a clinic, to a hospital in order to receive them. So there is a way in which they've been selected out for a different kind of treatment than any other kind of prescription. That said, they are accessible. And for people who are wondering now, women who are wondering now, what comes next? Well, these pills are accessible, and find a source where you are able to get them. And there are underground sources as well that are online where folks are told this is how you order them, and they can be sent to a friend and they can get them to you. There are myriad ways of getting that done. But the attack will be exactly that. The attack will come to the mailbox in order to try to shut down access to abortion in every means possible, including not just shutting down the clinics where surgical abortions can take place.
Right. It's not, it was never about, like I said, or like she was making the point too. It was never about just abortion, right? The issue isn't just abortion. The issue is how much I can, how much control I can exert, how much power I can exert. That's it. That's it. It's just as simple as that. How much power I can exert over people. That's it. How hard can I put that boot down? People have been mailing weed for decades. That's yes, through USPS. If you think a ban is going to stop Plan B pills from getting to people, you got your head in the sand. Yeah, it's not going to stop abortions necessarily, but certainly people are going to get, the medication that they need, whether or not you put it as illegal or not. A return to Puritanism, right. Exactly correct.
But also searching the mailbox in some form of a way. So we'll begin to see myriad laws being shaped that try to get at that makes it illegal to receive pills in the mail, that make it illegal to send pills in the mail, and any other. I mean, it's amazing the kinds of innovations that these legislators can come up with to try to curb rights and dismantle rights, and they're not very good and not committed to actually saving the lives of people who actually...
Right. That's a good point. These folks get so creative and so good at legalese, and so, by trial and error, by keeping to push the systems and norms, and by, of course, a weak opposition, you get pure trial and error until eventually you get, this. If you have a populace who is too busy working, too poor from stagnant wages, too tired from raising kids, they didn't have a choice in birthing, of course, because there's no there's no access or right to bodily autonomy. It's forced birth. Then you have a populace that won't get, quote, uppity. Right, that's a good point. Yeah, I mean, you're right, Fu Manchu. There's definitely an aspect of that. I think you made a point of that earlier. I do think that there is an aspect of it. And of course, at the end of the day, it is just about control, right? Exactly. I think back to the summer of 2020 with BLM protests and how quickly the powers that be went from supporting them to calling for unemployment payouts to be decreased. Yeah, I mean, it's just proof that they don't actually care about solving any meaningful problems. You're right. Listen, we got too many people with too much time on their hands, and they're starting to realize in the type of ways that they're getting effed. So we got to do something about that. I know. Too many people are having too much time in their hands with too much access to information and are beginning to realize in the ways that they're getting effed. The Christian nationalism aspect of it can't be ignored either. No, I make a point to bring that up. I recommend The Founding Myth by Andrew Seidel. The Canadian Parliament has started entertaining conservative abortion ban arguments now. Yikes. Jesus.
Pregnant, want to stay pregnant, or don't want to stay pregnant.
Professor Goodwin, in your book, Policing the Womb, you write, arguably abortion has become so fundamentally intertwined linguistically and conceptually with the terminology of reproductive privacy and reproductive rights that little else fits within the taxonomy. This is a mistake, you write. Why?
Well, it's been a mistake when you think about the following. If you think about civil rights, that's a plural. It has an S on it. And as having an S on it, it means that we're not just talking about Brown v. Board of Education, right? We're talking about education, employment, housing, the ability to swim in the pool in your neighborhood and walk through the park. We're talking about accommodations in all of those areas. And when we center just one aspect within the abortion rights or within reproductive rights, then we're talking just about abortion, then we're missing sex education, access to contraception. We're missing conversations about sterilization. We're missing everything else. And that kind of blind spot then means a failure to pay attention to many of the other areas where there have already been encroachments on reproductive health, rights, and justice. And so this is...
I think like I think a good, solid ground to basically argue for pro-choice is just simply bodily autonomy. That's a human right. You as a human being, period, full stop, no exceptions, should have bodily autonomy. The right to bodily autonomy. That's it.
This is why we've missed largely what's been happening to Black and brown women, the kind of most horrific treatment by government during their pregnancies. This is how the agenda of personhood was missed in the 1980s and 90s when it was being inflicted on Black women. You know, when prosecutors are claiming that your embryo or your fetus is a living born child and it is not by any constitutional definition, then everybody should be alarmed. But in the 1980s...
Yes, and also, as I've had several conversations, do not cede this ground, folks. This is not a person. This is not a live human being, despite the despite the rhetorical little tricks. This isn't like a baby that we're talking about. It has no consciousness. It is not a person. Okay? Do not move from that position. It is not a person. It does not have consciousness. It is not a baby. It is not a person, full stop, period. There's no, like, that you can't budge from that, okay? No matter how much they try to rhetorically use, oh, but it's, it's just not a person, period. Do not cede that that point at all, under no circumstance, because then if you give that, you give them their argument, because that's the whole point, right? Despite the little rhetorical tricks of a quote potential person, do not cede that ground. A potential person is not a person, full stop, period. A potential person is not a person. And science backs that up. Yeah, I agree. I'm not like... yes, you're correct. I'm a silly girl. It does not matter to them. They are terminally allergic to facts. It really doesn't matter. I'm saying, like, for rhetorical optics and just the way we present our arguments, there should never be a scenario where if the debate or argument gets bogged down in that position, then so be it. Okay? So be it, because the conversation cannot pass from that point. Okay? The conversation cannot pass from that point. Okay? If they're not willing to accept that, then that's where it ends in terms of, like, because there cannot be another. We can't have the next step of the conversation if you insist on something that is just divorced from reality. You cannot accept the next phase of the conversation if we can't even agree on the fact that like what you're advocating for is just like not based in reality. It is not a person. 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 If that's where the debate ends, so be it. But you can't, I think that you shouldn't cross that line. Which is my point, exactly. I'm a silly girl. There's no debate when they're unwilling to start from a place that makes sense. Correct. Correct. Yes.
80s and 90s, it completely missed those in the reproductive rights movement who were only focusing on abortion. But here's the other thing, Amy. Given the histories of coercion and coercive reproduction in the United States that dates back to the forced kidnap and trafficking of Black women, then we should all be concerned about the fact that Black women for centuries in this country have not been accorded dignity when they are carrying pregnancies to term and when they're carrying pregnancies to term that they want. And we should want it all. We should want that women should be able to survive and have dignity when they are pregnant and want to be pregnant. And we should also care about government coercively forcing women to carry pregnancies that they don't want for the benefit of random state legislators that these women do not even know.
Yeah. TLDR forced birth. They choose to trust a religious book over science, and the book doesn't even say that. Yeah, it's like, I mean, religion is fundamentalism is like that, right? It's not in their interest. All right, then Derek gave me this one. Let's see if we have time to cover some of this.
Fascism. The greatest moral failing of the liberal church, which I come out of, was its refusal, justified in the name of tolerance and dialogue, to denounce the followers of the Christian right as heretics. By tolerating the intolerant, it ceded religious legitimacy to an array of con artists, charlatans, and demagogues, along with their cultish supporters. It stood by as the core gospel message, concern for the poor and the oppressed, was perverted into a magical world where God and Jesus showered believers with material wealth and power. The white race became God's chosen agent. Imperialism and war became divine instruments for purging the world of infidels and barbarians, evil itself. Capitalism, because God blessed the righteous with wealth and power and condemned the immoral to poverty and suffering, became shorn of its inherent cruelty and exploitation.
Right, which is nowhere in the Bible, I think.
The iconography and symbols of American nationalism became intertwined with the iconography and symbols of the Christian faith.
I agree. I mean, we literally had an entire campaign, I think in the 50s. Was it the 50s? Somebody can correct me if I'm wrong, where we literally went on a campaign to put In God We Trust and all this other nonsense in our currency to own the godless commies.
The megapastors, narcissists, who rule despotic, cult-like fiefdoms, make millions of dollars by using this heretical belief system to prey on the despair and desperation of their congregations, victims of neoliberalism and deindustrialization. These believers find in Trump, who preyed on this despair in his casinos and through his sham university.
True.
And these megapastors, champions of the unfettered greed, cult of masculinity, lust for violence,
October of 2020.
bigotry, American chauvinism, religious intolerance, anger, racism, and conspiracy theories that are at the core of the Christian right. When I wrote my book, American Fascists, the Christian Right and the War, on America, I was quite serious about the term fascist. Tens of millions of Americans live hermetically sealed inside the vast media and educational edifice erected by the Christian right. In this world, miracles are real. Satan, allied with liberal, secular humanists and the deep state, along with Muslims, immigrants, feminists, intellectuals, artists, and a host of other internal enemies, is seeking to destroy America.
Yeah. Yeah, and this all ties into like the whole JQ stuff too.
Trump is God's anointed vessel to build the Christian nation.
I've actually heard that before. I mean, verbatim. It's very accurate. Absolutely. Been up for 26 hours? Jeez, Kevin. Listen, fam, you need to take care of yourself. You okay, buddy?
And cement into place a government that instills biblical values.
I've heard that one before.
Values include banning abortion, protecting the traditional family.
I mean, where have we heard this before? This is back in 2020.
Turning the Ten Commandments into secular law, crushing infidels, especially Muslims, indoctrinating children in schools with biblical teachings, and thwarting sexual license.
Yep. This is not something that he made up. This is not something that he made up. We literally went over a tweet from Charlie Kirk. This is not made up. We literally went over a tweet from Charlie Kirk saying that we need to bring back prayers into school. We need to bring back prayer into school. Oh shoot, I've got a dab and a get up. Redemption from Surfer McGritty. Shoot, I didn't even know you were here. I'm sorry. I'm here. Not paying attention. How freaking rude of me. Alright, so first and foremost, we need a dab. So I gotta do the dab right. So we'll do it full screen. Alright, we can do it that way. I'll dab with you. There we go. And then, oh, that kind of, that kind of dab. Okay, so, and then we've got a Get Up Redemption, which I do need to get up at least once a stream, for sure. One moment, folks. ban everybody while he's not looking. True. Do it. No, I'm kidding. That's no, it's actually not a new chair. I've actually just only had a whatchamacallit? A blanket over it. That's why. Bard. And far be it from me to tell someone they can't or shouldn't worship who or what they like, but in what way do their beliefs of a non-provable entity overrides basic rights of others? It doesn't. Deaths, i.e. murder, war, and genocide, in the name of this god or gods or over the eons are just unfathomable to me. True. True. Have we finished the drama now? Oh, there's no drama in this channel, my friend.
Which includes any sexual relationship other than marriage between a man and a woman.
Yep, that's exactly it. I mean, if
Trump
we
is routinely compared by evangelical leaders to the biblical king Cyrus, who rebuilt the temple in Jerusalem and restored the Jews to the city.
Right, which I've also heard, unironically, I have heard this, completely unironically. Not joking. They actually believe this. Anyways, we should probably, if you guys have time, you can watch the full lecture. But I think Chris Hedges is correct here. Chris Hedges is correct here. And, pretty spot on, I would say. As the late George Carlin said, for centuries God has been the leading cause of death. True. Alright. We gotta talk about this, and then we got 2 articles. Mark Meadows removed from North Carolina voter registration amid election fraud investigation. Damn. It just keeps happening, folks. We actually keep finding the small handful of cases of voter fraud, but they're actually from the people who are making the accusations. I think I want to become a priest and literally marry only gay people and replace holy water with 7-Up. I mean, yeah, why not? Although I don't know about the 7-Up, though. Can we get, like, ginger ale instead? And that's what we call praxis, true. Can we get ginger ale instead? That's my only, my only pushback on that. Can we get ginger ale? Republicans are hyped up about voter fraud because they're the ones doing it. True. I'm gonna keep my I'm gonna keep the donations and buy cool shoes. There you go. That's funny. But yes, I do support this idea. Literally only marry gay people, gay couples, and then replace the holy water. But I would say just do it with ginger ale, okay? I don't want to stick my fingers in water of hundreds of other people that have touched right before me. Yeah, I never. Oh, no. Great. Cannot unsee now. Mark Meadows was removed from the registered voter list in North Carolina, according to North Carolina Board of Elections, as the state investigates allegations by former White House Chief of Staff committed voter fraud by registering to vote in an address he did not reside in during the 2020 election when former President Trump won the state by 1 percentage point. But questions had been raised by New Yorker and the late North Carolina Attorney General's office over whether Meadows had ever lived at or owned the mobile home located at the address. or whether he had fraudulently used that address ahead of the 2020 election. Yikes. Thibault told the Citizen Times Meadows had been removed from the county's active voter list on April 11th after the Macon County Board of Elections consulted with the state's Board of Elections. Yikes. And don't forget to write off the shoes in your taxes, true. Anyways, that's a good meme. That's a very good meme. Alright. We gotta focus, chat. The world has no choice but to care about India's heat wave. As soon after I arrived in the eastern megacity of Kolkata in February, temperatures began climbing. They always do in India. Short winter turns into an early spring, but then they kept rising. After the hottest March in 122 years of record keeping, the scorching temperatures continued through April, with the national high averaging more than 95 degrees Fahrenheit. During my recent stop in New Delhi, the mercury topped at 110 degrees for 2 consecutive days, overwhelming the air conditioner in my rental apartment. The maximum temperature last month in the capital, home to more than 30 million people across the metro area, averaged more than 104 degrees. Yikes. Higher temperatures have been reported elsewhere, 111 in other regions of India, and to the west in parts of Pakistan above 120, if you can believe it. Yeah, it is pretty incredible. Welcome to the new norm, folks. I was fortunate to have any air conditioning at all. Most of India's 1.4 billion people, that's with a B, would consider themselves lucky to have a fan and electricity to run it. A ride in a 3-wheel tuk-tuk feels like a blow dryer directed straight at your face. The inside of a slumdoor's windowless room, often housing an entire family, can become a lethal hotbox. Health authorities have reported hundreds of deaths across the country from heat stroke, but the actual number is likely to be far higher. The only saving grace I have right now from the northern state of Punjab is that the unseasonable spring heat has come before the monsoon rains. Although that's led to drought conditions in some places, it also kept humidity levels low enough for India to largely avoid a national spike in deaths from heat stroke. For the country's health and climate experts trying to plan for global warming, the wet bulb temperature is the danger they fear the most. Yep. This deadly combination of heat and humidity, which prevents the human body from cooling itself by sweating, is a huge looming threat for South Asia's wet season, experts say. Although climate scientists are still puzzling out the precise details of global warming's role in India's current heat wave, the correlation is clear enough. Spells of blistering heat such as this are becoming a regular feature of South Asia's weather rather than a once-in-a-decade or more crisis. Right, and that's the whole point. Like, that's exactly it, right? I saw a thermal map of India. It's really scary. Sheesh. Yep, that is worse than Death Valley. Death Valley reached that temperature once, and it was considered like an unprecedented thing. The heat wave has been severe enough to make international headlines, but it is far from the only impact of climate change I've witnessed in the first half of my 6-month journey through the country to research and report on climate change and the energy transition. India is undertaking an attempt to mitigate it. India is at the sharp end of this predicament. A recent report by Standard & Poor's concluded that South Asia's economies are the world's most vulnerable, 10 times more exposed to global warming threats over the coming decades. The consultants estimated that at least than the least vulnerable countries, mostly in Europe. During a visit to the sprawling suburban mangrove swamp, part of the world's largest tidal estuary where several great rivers meet at the Bay of Bengal, I saw for myself how rising sea levels and more frequent and intense cyclones are helping to destroy what is not only a complex and sensitive ecosystem, but also a major carbon sink, which just kind of perpetuates the problem. No, you can't just buy AC. That's not just the only solution, my friend. But also a major carbon sink. One island's estuary, Guaramara, pounded by 4 major cyclones from 2019 to 2021, has lost about half of its landmass, Jesus, and more than half of its population in recent decades. A tropical storm last year submerged an entire island under several feet of churning water. Thousands of residents were forced to take refuge in the school shelter. Though inches above this floodwater, they escaped with their lives but lost practically everything else, including personal effects and school textbooks. Nearly a year from the disaster, I met Ajiman Bibi, a 6-year-old mother of 5 who was born on the island. As we talked, she spread out grain to dry on a blanket in front of her makeshift shelter. If the government didn't give this to us, we would have nothing. Sheesh. Continuing my journey, mostly by train, to tea-producing slopes of Darjeeling in the foothills of Himalayas, I saw the damage from last October's shattering rainfall, a phenomenon associated with a warming climate. The autumn rain bomb, in which a month's worth of precipitation fell in a single day, caused landslides that cut a path down the mountainside, still visible from across the valley. Tea producers told me how irregular rains and higher temperatures, especially at night, have severely challenged a delicate crop in years, threatening an entire industry. Yeah. Yep, permafrost is melting on both poles. AC is not globally available for use. Yep. Iran is supposed to be completely unlivable by 2050, and I believe where temperatures will cap out at 170 at the height of summer. Yikes. India is a major coal mining country. I don't know. I do know that India's climate track record is not exactly pristine. Here in oops. Okay. Here in Punjab, India's breadbasket, wheat farmers who are looking forward to a bumper harvest in a year when prices have been boosted ahead of reduced yields from Ukraine have seen crop losses amid the searing heat. This is not just disappointing for them, but as Atlantic Weekly's Planet newsletter recently noted, it is deeply concerning for countries facing worldwide food shortages in the coming months. Yeah, that's kind of a problem. The state's power minister said electricity demand had jumped 40% year on year as people ran fans and AC units at home and industrial production picked up after COVID. Railways canceled dozens of passenger trains in order to rush coal shipments to power plants trying to avoid blackouts. Yep. Astro, there you go. Wherever I go, I expect to encounter more signs of climate change in northern Himalayas. Rapidly rising winter temperatures have thrown snowfall patterns into disarray and causing glaciers to melt. Yeah. I think the point has been more than illustrated. I think the point has been more than illustrated about the real life consequences of climate change that are happening, well, right now. Right now to real human beings. Tens and tens of millions of people, about 1.4 billion in total in India alone, are becoming increasingly at risk for severe climate change catastrophes. According to the International Energy Agency, as a developing nation with large swaths of its population still living in poverty, India will account for more energy consumption growth than any other country from now until 2040. To make that happen while scaling back on coal, the country will need to grow renewables much faster to meet its pledge to reach net zero emissions by 2070. Yikes. This will require major foreign investment, which is becoming more active in India, but meeting the net zero target is a daunting task. It's a nice way of saying, We don't know. We don't know about that one. 2070, yep. That's exactly my reaction. The worldwide hunger is going to be especially epically disastrous, yep. Folks don't realize. Folks don't realize that this is happening right now. With stories like this, it's just unfathomable to me that we need to read headlines like this. Proposed CO2 pipelines thrust South Dakota into a $1 billion debate over carbon capture technology and climate change. So far, most of the discussion about two proposed multi-billion-dollar, this is so frustrating, multi-billion-dollar carbon dioxide pipelines that would cross hundreds of miles of eastern South Dakota has centered on opposition by landowners whose properties would be affected by the digging and laying underground pipes carrying a potentially dangerous chemicals. Those farmers and rural families have valid concerns, yeah, no kidding, who have already endured upheaval caused by the Dakota Access Pipeline, which was laid in some cases very near the same routes proposed by the CO2 pipelines. The two separate pipeline projects proposed by Summit Carbon Solutions and Navigator CO2 Ventures, both based in Iowa, are in early stages of planning and permitting and both hope to be operational in 2024. Yeah, this is a massive problem. We can't have... This should be outright shot down. I also recently saw some reforestation parts of southern China started to fail because they did it stupidly. Yikes. I haven't gotten to it yet, Astro. Everyone I've talked to is like, there's food for everyone. It's a distribution problem. While that may be the case now, while that may be the case now that we can technically have that we technically have the means of producing food for everybody and making sure that there's no hunger, all that's going to start falling apart when we just physically can't grow food in the same capacity and the same methods. Like, business as usual is not sustainable. No, we're not going extinct soon, but the misery is far too many that are trying to live or trying to. It's something we should do absolutely everything to avoid, but aren't. Oh yeah, 100%. 100%. And here we are, still having companies propose CO2 pipelines in 2022 to be operational in 2 years when we need to be doing the exact literal opposite. I do hope that they just shut this down and instead invest in more renewable sources, because this is completely backwards. We don't need to even be having the thought of CO2 lines and fossil fuel lines. That's just completely the other way. Oh, look at that. My first Twitch marriage proposal. Congratulations. We have the tools. Oh, yeah, absolutely. There's absolutely so many things that we could be doing right now, 10 years ago. Unfortunately, none of them have come to fruition. Pipeline construction tears up land owned in some cases for generations by the same families. There's an inherent risk of leakage. There always is, okay? No matter what these companies tell you, there always is. Farmland is turned over and taken out of production, drain tile systems and water flow patterns can be affected, payments for use of the land are far from life-changing. Hundreds of South Dakota landowners have signed up to address the state regulators about the Summit project, many in strong opposition. I hope so. I hope they shut it down. There's no need. There's absolutely no reason to continue to perpetuate this dying industry. Technology is fixing climate change, healthcare, and education. The war on technology is probably going to ramp up pretty soon. I don't agree.
Many people don't know this, but if you qualify for this new offer through Pink Energy, you could get paid over $2,500.
What do diamonds, bubbles in your beer?
Jesus. Sorry about that, folks. This was the video that Astro was suggesting. I'm going to post the link in chat. Folks, you should really check it out. Ah. Alright, folks. Unfortunately, it is about that time. It is well worth the 17 minutes. Yeah, I'm posting the link there. I know a few companies infuse carbon into concrete. Folks, unfortunately, that is all the time I have today. If you guys enjoy the content, don't forget to hit the follow button. It takes 5 seconds. Don't forget, join us. Okay, Sam. I mean, I'm gonna stick to the bit, alright? I'm gonna stick to the bit. You have a good one, thank you. I'm gonna stick to the bit. Thanks for the thinking, of course. It goes too quickly. Thanks, ADT. Thank you for hanging out. Appreciate that. Folks, if you haven't already, please consider checking out the Benjamin P. Dixon Show. They do fantastic work. Oh, oops. Please check them out. Make sure you hit the follow button on your way out. Join the Discord to keep up with the channel. Head on over to the YouTube channel. It takes 5 seconds. Give us a quick sub. It does help us out. As always, please spread the word far and wide that this is the chillest place to be for news and politics, Monday through Thursday, 9 a.m. Eastern Time. Join us for Saturdays around noon Eastern Time. As always, please stay safe. Please take care of each other. We love you all, and we hope to see you guys in the next one. See ya! Alright, folks, hang tight. Bye, Boomer. See ya. See you in the MR chat. Alright, folks, we're heading out in 5, 4, thank you, Heat, 3, 2, 1. See ya.